Facts you didn't know about Hogan's Heroes cast. The golden age of Hollywood began with the silent cinema period and continued until the early 1960s, when Cleopatra, the most costly picture ever filmed, reached the big screen and almost bankrupted 20th Century Fox. The films of the golden age produced a lot of money and featured a lot of attractive celebrities. While it's easy to see the period through rose-colored glasses, numerous instances occurred behind the scenes and in people's personal lives that expose some harsh facts about Hollywood. Superman George Reeves died under suspicious circumstances. George Reeves, the star of The Adventures of Superman, died of a gunshot wound on June 16, 1959. The prevailing belief is that the actor committed himself because he was depressed, which was exacerbated by his inability to find employment after the conclusion of the series. Some think Reeves was murdered by MGM vice president and fixer Eddie Mannix because the actor was having an affair with his wife, Toni Mannix. Another possibility is that Reeves died as a consequence of an unintentional gunshot. Toni died in 1983 and supposedly confessed to a priest that she was responsible for Reeves' death. Walt Disney played host to a Nazi filmmaker. In 1938, Nazi filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl paid a visit to Hollywood. Triumph of the Will, a Nazi propaganda film popular among the Third Reich, was one of Riefenstahl's most renowned films. She immigrated to the United States during Kristallnacht, when the German soldiers ransacked and destroyed Jewish homes, hospitals, and schools. Riefenstahl was treated well by Walt Disney, who took her on a 3-hour tour of the Disney lot. He showed her some designs for the future film Fantasia and a showing of Olympia, a documentary about the 1936 Olympics. Loretta Young hid her pregnancy and passed off her biological daughter as adopted. Loretta Young, age 22, became pregnant with Clark Gable, age 34, while shooting The Call of the Wild. According to others, the affair was not consensual. Young, her sisters, and her mother concealed the pregnancy, placed the kid in an orphanage, and then adopted Judith less than 2 years later. Many people in Hollywood were aware of the reality, and when Judith was 31, she faced her mother, who confessed discreetly. MGM pressured Judy Garland to starve herself and take diet pills. Judy Garland, like many other young actors, battled with self-image while growing up and working in Hollywood. Unfortunately, she was bullied and harassed by MGM officials who told her she needed to lose weight. She was described as a little fat pig with pigtails when she was just 14 years old. Under the influence of producer and MGM co-founder Louis B. Mayer, Garland starved herself and began using diet pills in order to appear skinny. By the age of 18, she was smoking 80 cigarettes per day and subsisting on black coffee and a diet pill regimen. She struggled with her drug addiction and an eating issue until her death. Ingrid Bergman's affair with director Roberto Rossellini rocked Hollywood. Ingrid Bergman, the star of Casablanca, was a Hollywood stalwart when she became embroiled in a controversy that shook the industry. On the set of Stromboli in 1949, she had an affair with married Italian filmmaker Roberto Rossellini. Bergman became pregnant, the couple divorced, and they had a child together before marrying in 1950. Fans were outraged by the affair, and Bergman sought refuge in Europe for several years to escape the scrutiny. But time cures all wounds, and she received her second Academy Award for Anastasia in 1956. She divorced Rossellini the next year when he had an affair with another lady. The Three Stooges creator died following a nightclub fight. Ted Healy, a vaudeville performer, comedian, and actor, is most remembered for inventing the Three Stooges, despite being a famous Hollywood performer in his own right in the late 1920s. Healy included the Stooges in a comic performance, but by 1934, he and the Stooges had split up. Healy, who liked to drink, was celebrating the birth of his kid in December 1937 when he got into an incident outside a Hollywood nightclub. It's unclear what transpired, but 3 other males were there. The declared cause of death was chronic drinking. but facts indicate that the fight had a role in his death. Lana Turner's daughter killed Turner's gangster boyfriend. Lana Turner was one of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's, MGM's, most famous stars. She was known as a femme fatale in films such as The Postman Always Rings Twice and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Cheryl Crane, the star's 14-year-old daughter, murdered Lana's lover, gangster Johnny Stompanato, in their house in 1958. Crane said she stabbed her mother in self-defense to shield her from Stompanato's violence. After less than 5 hours of deliberation, the jury decided it was a justified murder. Some think Lana murdered Stompanato and had her daughter take the fall. Other reports circulated that Cheryl was in a relationship with Stompanato. Several stunt pilots died on the set of Howard Hughes' Hell's Angels. Howard Hughes worked on the epic aircraft combat picture Hell's Angels for 3 years, from 1927 to 1930. It cost $2.8 million to film and featured Ben Lyon, James Hall, and Jean Harlow at the time. 3 stunt pilots and 1 technician were killed during production. Al Johnson crashed after colliding with wires while landing his jet. C.K. Phillips, the pilot, crashed while carrying an aircraft to a filming site. Rupert C. McAllister, an Australian pilot, also killed, as was technician Phil Jones, who didn't bail out before the disaster. Hughes almost died after filling in for a stunt pilot, demonstrating how risky the industry was. 3 of Charlie Chaplin's wives were just teenagers when he married them. Charlie Chaplin, well known for his silent-era films and on-screen figure The Tramp, had a 75-year career. During that period, he married 4 times. 3 of his wives were still in their teens when they married. When he married his first wife, Mildred Harris, he was 29 years old. They divorced 2 years later, and Chaplin, then 35, married Lolita McMurray, age 16. They had to marry in Mexico since California had legislation prohibiting them from marrying so young. They divorced 3 years later, and Chaplin married Pauline Levy, age 20. They divorced 6 years later, and Chaplin married his final wife, Una O'Neill, who was 18 at the time. Ladies' man Clark Gable allegedly slept with men to get ahead. Clark Gable was known as the King of Hollywood in the 1930s and 1940s. He appeared in many films including Gone with the Wind, Mutiny on the Bounty, and It Happened One Night. He also married 5 times and had affairs with Grace Kelly, Joan Crawford, and Lana Turner. However, author David Brett of the book Clark Gable, Tormented Star, claims that the actor used to sleep with guys in order to boost his career. There's no evidence that Gable utilized his sex appeal to get early parts, but it's not unusual, even now, for such to happen in Hollywood. Jerry Lee Lewis's 3rd wife was his cousin and just 13 years old. Jerry Lee Lewis, age 22, and well known for his hit song Great Balls of Fire, married for the 3rd time in 1957. Myra Gale Brown, 13, was his wife. The fact that the couple were cousins added to the notoriety of the young affair. During a 1958 tour of the United Kingdom, the press learned about the scandal, and he was compelled to cancel his remaining engagements. Lee's affair with his teenage cousin effectively wrecked his career. Radio stations stopped playing his songs, and his fees dropped from $10,000 to $250 every concert. He and Myra divorced in 1970 after having 2 children. Lewis is still active today. Joan Crawford allegedly made adult films. Joan Crawford was an Academy Award winner who appeared in films such as Mildred Pierce and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. She was once one of Hollywood's most renowned stars, as well as one of the highest-paid women in the nation. She suffered earlier in her career, as do many aspiring actors. Crawford supposedly filmed several pornographic videos as a teenager in order to pay her fees. MGM allegedly employed a fixer to ensure that the truth was never revealed. There's no evidence that she made these films, although her first husband, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., verified it once. Elvis Presley preferred underage girls. Elvis Presley is regarded as one of the greatest heartthrobs in American pop culture history. However, Presley remained uneasy behind the scenes, particularly when it came to dating. According to reports, the rock and roll legend wanted to date people far younger than him so he wouldn't be embarrassed by his lack of experience. He allegedly asked his managers to select ladies 16 years or older as relationship possibilities. He famously met Priscilla when she was 14, and she characterized him as awkward, embarrassed, like the boy next door. Marlon Brando's revenge on Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra and Marlon Brando didn't get along while shooting the 1955 musical Guys and Dolls. It was largely because Sinatra mocked Brando's acting approach. He mocked him with the moniker Mumbles and made the actor's work very difficult. Brando planned to retaliate against Sinatra during shooting a scene in which Sinatra had to eat cheesecake. Take after take, Brando purposely flubbed his lines, forcing the team to go over them again. Meanwhile, Sinatra was being forced to eat more and more cheesecake, which was driving him insane. Raft was really a gangster. George Raft was the leading man in gangster films. If a producer wanted someone in such sort of films, he was your man. But there was a reason behind it. The issue is, he was a real-life mobster. He maintained close touch with Oni Madden and Bugsy Siegel, and Siegel even assisted him in breaking into the film business. When gangsters pull strings for you to make it big, you've got connections that run deeper than you should. Near career death experience for Flynn. Many ladies sought Errol Flynn, the darling of his day. Rumors will spread when you're the talk of the town among all the ladies. He allegedly had relationships with Marlene Dietrich and Carole Lombard, to name a few. Unfortunately, his image was jeopardized when he was accused of mistreating two young females. If this had occurred in today's atmosphere, Flynn's promising career would have ended very instantly.